I think the main characteristic I've always tried to live by is to be a good listener. It's not often a characteristic you would necessarily think of for leaders, because you think their role is to communicate and all those other things, which of course it is, but I think there's particularly in today's world, when any leader can't know everything. So if our characterization of leaders in the past were they were the ones at the top, they had to kind of tell everybody else what to do, that world is gone, and one of the most important attributes there is therefore is an ability to listen and to understand and to make judgments having listened. And I think it also speaks therefore to a notion of a little bit of humility, which is not a bad thing in a modern leader either. I look to all sorts of places. I'm a curious person, and I think it's really important. It doesn't matter where you are, what level or stage of your career. I think curiosity is a really important thing. And if you're curious, you can find inspiration from all sorts of sources. I mean, in my job, I get inspiration from some of the great leaders of the past, whether it be a Gandhi or a Churchill, but I equally get inspiration from young people who are coming into work with perhaps different frames of reference, different views of the world. So I think in very simple terms, I get inspiration from all sorts of places. And then the other attribute one would talk about in terms of inspiration is your kind of internal motivations and drivers, which is something I've often been asked about and find a little curious as to what it is that drives me. But in the end, as I said, I think it's this notion of curiosity. I think it is a really important thing about leadership is to understand that you are continually growing and continually learning. And it comes back to my notion of curiosity. I think every good leader, at any level, any stage, is about continually learning. And I've often said to people that I would stop doing something the day I felt I wasn't learning anything, and I've never found that. And particularly in my role today, I literally learn every day. I get the opportunity to meet a lot of different people, talk about a lot of different things, and I'm learning every day. So that is the absolute essence of leadership and leadership development, keeping an open mind, recognizing and being curious about things, learning, looking for different sources of inspiration and ideas, and then forming your own point of view and sense of direction from that. I think there have probably been 2 or 3 moments in my career where I've had a sort of flash of light. But I think like most people, I would say it wasn't like I knew exactly what I was going to do for the rest of my career. And I think particularly in today as well, for young people coming into the world of work, things are changing so much. It's very hard to say exactly where my career might go. But my flashes were, when I was leaving university, I recognized that I wanted to work in business, but I could see that technology, computers, were going to really change the face of business. And I've always been fascinated by change. So I wanted to work in a space that brought technology and business together, and I was very lucky to end up in a big consulting business, which today is known as Accenture. So that was a sort of flash of light. I think the other flashes of light I've always had is to put myself forward for things, to try something different. It's very easy to get, either because you're not confident or you're happy where you are or whatever, not to stretch yourself. And so those have always been my other flashes, is when I have an opportunity or I see an opportunity that I think, now that might be interesting, it would stretch me in a different direction, give me another opportunity, then I try to go and grab it. Might not always succeed, but if you don't try, you never will succeed. So I think those would be the things, but it's certainly not saying I plotted it all out from the age of 21 or whatever, and I don't think anybody, well, very few people I've ever met think like that. So then this idea of seizing opportunities becomes even more important. Yeah, I think there are a number of things. I mean, the first of all, I look for sort of notions of character. I mean, what else have they done besides academic excellence? It would be, for example, volunteering, social action, or having done a gap year and done some interesting things. Also with some understanding of the world of work, which in today's world I think is more and more important. We talk about employability skills and things like that. So those would be attributes which you could define in looking for a more rounded individual, and then looking for these different things, so bits of work experience, understanding something in the world of work, volunteering or whatever, other things that have helped them round out. Secondly, I would say I look for people who have got a curiosity and who are able to think for themselves and to challenge. Because particularly in today's world, we all talk about a post-truth world. I mean, the need for people to think critically, to challenge, to help formulate their own ideas of things is really, really important. And I don't think that's about an age thing. I think you can do it at any age. And most businesses today require those sorts of skills because the world of work is more unpredictable. So it can't just be following the same old, or because we've always done that, that's going to be the way to do it in the future. And I think the good thing about many young people today is they are more challenging. They don't always take things for granted. They often say, and I've recruited graduates for many years, just because you've always done that doesn't mean to say that we're going to do that. And I think that's right. So that ability to be curious, to be challenged, a little bit challenging perhaps, to have an opinion, and to seek, out different ideas are all parts of what I think is needed in any successful employee in any organization today. I would say, don't be afraid. I mean, I think when you're young and it's all a bit uncertain and you're learning and you assume everybody who's more senior than you must be way wiser and all the rest of it. And I'm not sort of preaching an idea that we should challenge everybody. Yeah, of course we have to understand there are things that, certain rules and constraints to what we do. But I think don't be afraid. Don't be afraid that your ideas, even if they're different or because you're younger or something, don't have validity. So then which is related to what I've been saying, but then the ability to communicate that becomes really essential as well. And that's something I learned and wasn't always very good at when I started in the world of work. And yet it becomes more and more important as you go through your career. Your ability not only to think different thoughts or whatever, bring together different ideas, but to be able to communicate them effectively and to influence others. And those are very, very key skills, which I wish I had more of when I was young, but it may be just a feature of gaining experience and confidence as you go. I think universities, of course, have a huge role in helping to expand people's minds in the simplest sense. I mean, higher education is an amazing opportunity to explore different things, not just academic, but other things as well. And it's so important that young people take that opportunity. So certainly as an employer or a business leader, that's what I would look for. As I said, I'd be looking for graduates who've taken those opportunities, expanded their minds, learnt how to learn, learnt how to think and how to think critically, and learnt, to some degree also how to communicate. I think places like the University of West of England provide some of those opportunities because they also provide that connection into the real world of work. It's one of the great virtues, I think, of what we now refer to as the 92 group, the old polytechnics, is that connection with the world of work, which is very strong. And in today's world, is something that businesses, I think, are more and more concerned about. Young Enterprise, as it's known in the UK, and some of the students may have gone through it in some of their schools, and indeed it works at university level as well, it is a program that gives opportunities to young people to set up projects, little businesses, things like that, learn business and entrepreneurial skills. And then they will often be tutored and mentored by people in work, business leaders, if you will. And then the really exciting part is when they all come together and they compete against each other. So you have these marvelous award ceremonies where some of the most inspiring things I've seen, young people standing up on stage and talking about little businesses that they've created and how they've grown those little businesses and the sort of passion and the ideas that sit behind it. And most importantly, the learnings that they've taken from it. So that's what Young Enterprise is all about. So I got involved with their board about 5 or 6 years ago and helped to shape some of the strategy, promote some of these ideas. But it's a wonderful way in which young people can, in a fairly safe environment, build a little business, learn entrepreneurial skills and basic business skills, which I think are immensely valuable in their ongoing careers, whatever they do. The context of work and the political world and so forth is more and more uncertain. So if we weren't paying attention to how we look after our people and get the most out of them, then we need to pay more attention to it now. I mean, there's a very old saying, which has got a very hackneyed phrase, that people are our most important assets, but they genuinely are. Now, part of the challenge is business over the last several decades hasn't always treated people like they're the most important assets. We've tended to create work environments can be quite rather command and control and rule-bound and all these other things, which don't get the best out of people. So in a world where there is more uncertainty, we need to be able to create so-called high-performing organizations where everybody can contribute, because we can't all determine it from the top because we don't know everything. So the need to get people engaged, hear their voice, connect people, support them and all these other things, build diversity in our workforces, are important for so many reasons, but the first is it creates better business because you're going to get more innovation, more ideas, you're going to build more agile and responsive businesses. Secondly, you build more responsible businesses too, and my goodness, that's important today. We're going to rebuild trust in many of our institutions and businesses. So more responsible businesses, which are making the best, therefore, of their people asset. But somebody told me a long time ago that there are only two things you have in business anyway. One's people and the other's money. We spend a lot of time worrying about the money. We now need to spend more time worrying about the people as well.